In rural communities, low awareness of individual rights and the preference by families to compromise with perpetrators remains a hindrance in the fight against gender-based violence, GBV. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men living in rural areas say wife beating is justified for countless reasons. For this reason, the government set up the community-based action teams, popularly known as COMBAT, in 2002 to raise awareness about the causes and consequences of violence against women and girls, change the social norms and practices that drive intimate partner violence, IPV, and facilitate coordinated responses to support survivors of violence to access counseling, legal and other social services. Through COMBAT, women and community leaders are trained to identify and set up interventions to prevent GBV. Local facilities such as hospitals, the police, and other agencies are also trained to support and to improve the assistance survivors of abuse need. We bring you more in this report by correspondent Mavis Ofea Champon.
People thought when there's this violence and then you take them to the police station or any other court to report, even the man, for the police to arrest. So they were not, taking that to do it.
A lot of people suffer from gender violence, especially against women and girls. But some take it that it's normal because my father was doing the same thing to my mother, my grandfather doing the same thing to my grandmother, my uncles and aunties. So something is normal.
People think violence against women is still a private family matter that should not be aired in public. That's the first challenge.
These are the perceptions, fears and challenges in most rural communities in Ghana. Many of them are unaware that they can report perpetrators and that laws exist prescribing stiff punishment for those convicted. Unfortunately, majority of survivors do not report cases of abuse. They suffer silently in the name of protecting their family names and their own privacy. In a previous demographic health survey published in 2008, only half of GBV survivors in the central region sought help from any source and less than half sought help in the eastern region, even though there were high awareness of the various public services available for survivors of domestic violence. While some may not know where to report such cases, those who do think the process is cumbersome.
There was a rape case which was reported to the police. The police asked for medical report, but the police they were taking some money for transportation. The medical personnel were also taking something, and eventually the case was dropped off.
The community-based action teams combat program was first piloted in 3 communities in the central region in 2002. After 2 years, the program was scaled up and introduced in 15 communities in the eastern region, Ashanti, Upper East and Upper West regions of Ghana. The program has engendered positive shifts in knowledge, attitudes and behaviors of rural communities with respect to gender roles and relations and violence against women and girls. According to the Gender Studies and Human Rights Documentation Center, which implements the program, rural communities have built confidence in the laws that protect survivors, improved their understanding of women's rights and protection, and bridged the gap between abusers and law enforcement agencies. These community-based action teams combat are made up of men and women who serve as advocates and are the first port of call for any issue of gender-based violence in their communities.
What we do is when we decide that, for example, we are working in Dranhaf, we identify about 10 communities. We go and do inception meeting where we meet the community, the chiefs, opinion leaders, and talk to them about the project. Then we let them help us to identify people we can train. And these people, what we do is that, one, we don't allow the chiefs to give us people. Because there have been times that when we are busy, we go all right, but we tell them, then Nana will say, oh, I want this person to join. And when they come and they are not working well, it gets difficult for you to pull them out. So when we go, we give them a criteria for selection. And in the criteria, we say that someone who is respectful, someone who is not a drunkard, someone who is not a womanizer, or I have this term for the women to womanizer, because you can't be part of combat and you are sleeping with people's husband, or you can't be part and be sleeping with people's wives. The trainings are in 2 weeks. We do first on gender, violence against women and children, domestic violence, and also the second training, we do the family laws. Likewise, men who will never touch knife now are saying that, oh, now because of combat, I don't beat my wife. Because of combat, there are still the male chauvinists who are very culture embedded, and for them, at majority, I would say that if you take about 10 people, you get about 7 who combat has changed them. We've done it in the Volta region, KJB and all those places. And any place we go and come out, there's very much change in the communities. But the unfortunate thing is that there are some communities you try your best. Maybe those who have changed. New people will come. The laws are not being done. So before you realize, you go back and things has changed. Others have not heard. They are not listening. And other than that, there's a lot of change for me.
Beneficiaries say the program has changed attitudes about women's role and status, reduced the incidence of violence in the community, and improved the response by state institutions to victims reporting abused cases.
Through the teachings and we going to them and then talking to them, they are going by what we are telling them, and then this violence thing has come down a little.
Now that we are educating ourselves, now they are becoming aware that it's not normal. No woman, no girl, no vulnerable person has to suffer violence because the other one is stronger. And should it happen, we know that it's an abuse. Abuse is against the law.
The Gender Studies and Human Rights Documentation Center is currently working with rural communities in the Okere and Akuapem North District of the Eastern Region. The executive director of the center, Madame Dorcas Kokapia, believes the 2-year project has been an icebreaker in the selected rural communities where issues of violence against women and girls were difficult to talk about. She says cases of violence against women and girls can only be solved when they are reported.
The fact that you have been abused does not make you the bad person. And reporting is only a way to ensure that that perpetrator does not get away with it. Because what happens is that there are perpetrators who, just because nobody reports, they are not held accountable. They keep going around doing the same things over and over again. So I think that is the main problem. Yes, there are issues relating to the way the police and the DOPSU respond, but that is something that can be addressed over time. If people don't report, then DOPSU cannot do the work that they are supposed to be doing.
In the Okere and Akuapem North District of the Eastern Region of Ghana, where the community-based action teams combat initiative is currently being implemented in 20 communities, including Yamebechre, Aprede, Nsutem, Okrakojo, Asisieso, Ewukugwa, Ebru Konkon, Latekobiase, and Late Ahiniase. That Myra Ahini of Asisieso, Dana Otutu Labi, said, though most cases were brought to the chief's palace and community heads for redress, the introduction of the program has offered them the opportunity to properly record the cases and encourage more people to seek redress from the appropriate law enforcement agencies. He said over 50 cases of GBV have been referred to DOPSU for redress.
In our education and sensitization, we tell them that when it comes to rape and defilement, it's not family elders matter at all. It should straight be reported.
Nanotutu Labi said in the past, the community was recording high numbers of school dropouts as a result of teenage pregnancy due to GBV, but the program has helped to reduce these cases drastically.
When it comes to a school dropout, especially with girls, that one we had data 2 years before for about 3 children that dropped out from the DHS. And then a year before that one, there were 4 that dropped out. But when we started the sensitization and education, there were no dropouts at all. That was 2020 and 2021. There were no dropouts at all. up till now, we haven't seen anything like that.
Impact assessment of the rural response system for violence against women and girls through the Combat Initiative currently shows a reduction of sexual violence from 17% to 8% and a reduction of physical intimate partner violence by half. Though there has been some progress in the eastern and central regions where the initiative is being implemented, beneficiaries say more work must be done in the rural communities where low awareness of individual rights and the preference by family to compromise with perpetrators continues to impede the fight against gender-based violence GBV. With a call for more education and funding, medical assistance for victims and prevention of family interference in GBV issues. Law enforcement agencies are also being required to bring the perpetrators to book and speed up court process. They say until these interventions are implemented, the fight against GBV will continue to suffer. For GBC News, Mavis of Ejampo reporting.